What if I told you there was one drill that could help you shallow the club and create an amazing impact position with forward shaft lean at impact? If this one drill could do both of those things, I think you would start to see your ball striking really benefit from it. So before we get into the drill, I want to identify a couple different terms here anatomically, okay? So if you were to just look at the glove hand, so my left hand for right-handed player, if I were to take my wrist and go this way, that is called extension. If I were to take my wrist and go this way, this is called flexion or bowing of the wrist. Now, what I want you to understand is what both those anatomical positions sort of do to the club and the club face on the way down. So if I were to just take my impact position and go ahead and extend the wrist, you're going to see the handle end up behind the golf ball at impact. Ideally, like we see with the best players in the world, we would see that handle in front of the golf ball at impact. Now, my wrist is in a much more flexed position there, okay? So I just want you to remember that when we cup the wrist, it looks like this at impact. Probably don't want to do that. When we bow the wrist, it looks a little bit more like this at impact. Now, let's just say we're in the middle of our swing and we're going to go ahead and analyze that anatomical wrist position again. If I were halfway down in my swing, okay, maybe right here, and I decided to cup the wrist, I want you to look A at the club face and then B at the pitch of the shaft. So what we know is as we cup the wrist, you're going to see the shaft get really steep and you're going to see the club face gets open. This is a recipe to swipe down and across it and hit a bunch of weak slices. If I were to take that wrist position and now start to bow the wrist, you're going to see the shaft start to get a little bit shallower, meaning the club head's going to fall further back behind me and the club face itself is going to get a little less open and a little bit more closed. So I think we could all agree the movement of this wrist is very important, A, for the shallowing of the club and the club face, and then lastly, it's also important for compressing the golf ball at impact. And so while not every golfer needs to do this drill to hit good golf shots, I'm going to recommend it for the recreational player because I think it could be wildly helpful in helping you A, shallow the club, and B, create some forward shafting. So let's get into the drill. All you need for this drill is a glove on your lead hand and you need a fork. So I've got a plastic fork here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put this fork in the glove with the prongs of the fork down. Now, I don't want anyone to hurt themselves here, but I'm going to ask you to put this in prongs down. Now, if I were to now take my wrist and if I were to start to cup it, you're going to see that that fork actually wants to dig into my skin. This actually, if you have sharp enough fork, this is going to hurt, okay? So as we cup the wrist, you can see it pushes into my skin and I can certainly feel that. Now, if I bow the wrist, you're going to see that that fork comes off my forearm and I'm actually able to like make a swing here without a bunch of pain in my forearm. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is take your swing, and what we're going to do at the top of the swing, we're going to try and make sure the prongs are actually off of our arm. Again, as we do that, I want you to see how the shaft starts to shallow out, the club face gets in a nice position, and we're going to try and keep the fork off the arm as we rotate down into impact. What I would not want to see is we maybe have the fork off the arm halfway down, but then down into the ball, we start to prick ourselves with the fork. Again, that's that act of extending that lead wrist. Now all of a sudden, I'm not leaning the shaft forward at impact. I'm not going to compress the ball as well. I'm going to struggle with low point. So again, if you were to just take this fork, put it in the glove, we're going to avoid pushing the prongs into our arm. We're going to try and pull the prongs off the glove. So now as I load up to the top, you're going to see the influence that that has. A, on the pitch of the shaft. So you can see, like the best players in the world, you can see the club shallow a little bit. You can see that fork coming off my arm there. Now we're going to stay in posture. We're going to rotate really nicely as we come into impact. And as we come into impact, we're going to make sure that fork is still off the forearm here. And that's going to help you lean the shaft forward, move the low point of your swing arc forward, and help you shallow the club on the way down and compress the ball way better. If you like this video about bowing the wrist and getting the fork off the forearm, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe. I'm going to be doing videos like this every single week. And as always, online coaching is available. If you'd like me to help you take your game to the next level, hit the link in the bio and we'll get started today.